Hey everyone and welcome. Today we are going to create this infinite loop scroller using React and Next.js and Tailwind CSS. Let's get started. I've already created a Next.js app and cleaned up everything, including content and styles. Now let's run the app by opening a terminal, typing cd desktop or every directory that you have your application installed on, and npm run dev. Open the browser and go to the server address. Here is the empty canvas ready to create our application. Now let's go to the page.tsx file. First, let's test it out by typing a hello world to our application. Let's create our component inside components directory. I call it infinite carousel.tsx. Here I am using VS Code plugin to create my arrow function. Now in the page.tsx file, let's remove the hello world and import our component. Here we got an error. Let's refresh the page. Here we go. Now let's import all of logo images. Import I already downloaded all the images and put them in public folder and in logos directory. Let's import all other logos. Now I create logos variable, which is an array of objects. The first key would be src, which points to the logo, and the other one is URL, which for now let's point to the home page. Let's create other objects. Now let's send the logos variable as props to the carousel component. Here we have a type error which we solve in a minute. Inside our carousel component, let's define the props we get from the parent component. Now let's define the type of props. The props logos has two properties: rc, which is of type static image data, and URL, which is of type string. And at the end, it's an array of these objects. Now let's render the images in this component. First, let's create another div. It is necessary to give the parent div a max width, here 800 pixels. And give the inner div a custom class name, here scroll inner. And now map through the logos and render them here. I hope you are familiar with map function of JavaScript, because I don't give much comments on this. I want to wrap the logos in a link tag and then display images in the Next.js image component. Here we import image tag from next image. The source of image would be logo.src. We use a template literal to show unique alt for each image. And now we give it a height of 100 pixels. Let's check the results. Okay, now let's give a class name to the main tag on page.tsx. I want to center the component by these class names. As you can see, the images are on top of each other. Let's display them in a row by using flexbox. Now let's give the component a red border to make it easier to see the overflow of content. As you can see right now, we don't have any overflow. Now for each item we need the width of max content, and for clearer view let's give it the background and give the parent div a background too, a different background. Give it a gap of 1 rem or half rem for better view. And now the main functionality of the code. First, we access the DOM by this variable and using useRef hook, which is of type HTML div element. The value is initially null. We need to import useRef from React, and because we use this hook, we have to execute this component on client side, and for that we should type use client on top of this component. Now we use effect hook to track the state of our component, and main functions goes here. First, we need to access the value of scroll ref by this variable. I need to add a comma here. Now define the main function, call add animation. You call it whatever you want. And first thing first, we check if the scroller has loaded on the DOM, and if it's not, return. Let's access the inner scroll div by this variable, this time by using query selector. The class name is scroller inner or scroll inner. Let's copy paste it. We add another check here to be sure this div also is fully loaded on the DOM. And here we need to access the children of the inner div by simply typing inner scroller dot children. Let's have a console log of the children to be sure that we did everything right. Before going to check the console log, we need to call the function here. I also forgot something. I defined scroll ref, but we should add the ref to this element. We check it out by refreshing the page. As you can see, we got HTML collection, but we want an array of HTML elements. For that purpose, we add array.from children. Now, because of the nature of infinite loop, we have to recreate every link element. We use clone node, and then we append them to the inner scroller. First, we loop through the children elements by using for each loop method. Define a new variable called extended logos, and using clone node true to clone each element. The type of each cloned element would be HTML element. Now append cloned elements into inner scroller element. Now if we go check, let's refresh the page, and as you can see here, we have a lot of cloned elements, and you can see here too, we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 of each element, but we want 2. This is because Next.js is a hybrid framework that runs on both the client side and the server side. Let's fix that. By setting an attribute to inner scroller called data cloned and set that to true after each clone, and check if the inner scroller has that attribute, don't clone them again. If inner scroller dot get attribute, and we get data cloned attribute, data cloned, And if this attribute equals to true, simply return. This must be get attribute. And now we must have only one set of cloned data and not 3. Let's check it out. Here we have one set of original data and one set of cloned data. Now let's add the class name, custom class name to the main div, call it scroller. And here in global.css file, we grab the .scroller class name and using mask property to give it a beautiful fading style to the sides. We use linear gradient, and inside the parentheses we use transparent and white. Check it out. We should rotate it to be on the side, not on the top, and also mask 20% of the width. Check it out again. Great. Now for other side. White from 80% and transparent. We copy this and add WebKit. Save and check. Now we grab the scroll inner and give it the class name of flex wrap no wrap. Let's check it out. And give it the class name of max width, max content. It's necessary for overflowing the content. As you can see here, we previously did that, but it didn't work on Tailwind. Oh, actually it's on link element, which is wrong. It must be on scroll inner. Now for adding animation, we go to tailwind.config.ts file, and inside extends object we add keyframes properties, which also is an object. Now we add the name called infinite scroll, which is an object too. And here we only want the end of this animation, which is 100%, and want to translate minus 100%. It means at the end of this animation we want minus 100% of translation, which is from right to left. If it is 100% translation, it would be from left to right. Now we defined keyframes, we have to define animation too. Which we called infinite scroll. And again inside the quotation marks we call it infinite scroll 10 second linear and infinite. You can adjust the duration as you wish. Now inside our component and inside scroll inner we should define the animation here. Here we go. But it has some problems we should fix. Here at the end we have empty part. First, let's add the overflow hidden to the scroller. Now, as you can see, the scroll bar is hidden. And for the empty part at the end, we should adjust the keyframes on tailwind.config.ts file. We need to modify the translate property from -100% to -50%. This is because we've cloned the elements and they need to translate only halfway to maintain the appearance of continuous scrolling. As you can see, this is an infinite scroller, but there is still a noticeable lag at the end of the scrolling. This lag is caused by the gap between the elements, which affects the smoothness of the animation. To address this issue, we need to adjust the keyframe translation to account for the gap between the elements. I think we had 1 rem of gap, then this must be half rem plus -50%. Let's check. Actually, this is half rem of gap. Then this must be 0.25 rem. Now we must have a smooth scroll from end to start, but no, because here we should have minus 0.25 rem, not plus. Yeah, it's okay now. Now let's clean up our component by removing the unnecessary border and backgrounds. Here is the beautiful scroller, but we need to add another functionality, which is pause the scrolling by hover on the scroller. We go to the global.css file and dot scroll inner on hover and animation play state to be paused. Let's check the final result. And that's it. Thank you for watching.